Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to our first of a new podcast series called Working Up with myself, Daniel Kurkowski, and Ryan Schroder.
Thank you for coming up with the wonderful name and idea to do a podcast, Daniel.
Look, man, we're at a point in our lives where we're both doing different things. We did so many things together that we need a good excuse to make sure we're sticking around and hanging out on a regular basis, having these conversations, and thought it'd be more fun to share it with everybody else, too.
I appreciate it.
So what we want to talk about, it's going to vary a little bit. We're going to have some fun. It's going to be a little bit looser than some of the other podcasts that we've done in the past. But what I think is so interesting is sort of your story and how you worked your way up in the world, basically from real estate agent to, working at Thomson Reuters, and then starting a real estate company, which now you have 30 people affiliated, more, less?
I guess if you include construction, it's, 40, 50 maybe.
So just in general, I think the best place to start here is how did this happen? How did you make this happen? How did you hire your first person to where you're at today?
Well, it started back in Bloomington in 1991.
A star flew across the sky.
Yeah. It was in the living room of an East Bloomington 1,000-square-foot house when I whipped up on every other kid in the neighborhood in Monopoly to the point that they didn't want to play with me anymore, that I realized I knew precisely what I wanted to do with my life, which was
be a cat and run around in squares. Yeah, I got it.
I was the ship, but sure. And but I knew that I wanted to be in the business of buying, selling, and trading real estate. I saw the acquisition of assets that paid rent, in which you could use to buy more assets that paid you more rent, as a very logical way to build wealth. So when I actually started in this business, the only thing I really knew when I went to college was that I wanted to own my own business and that it was probably going to be in the field of real estate. And I was working for my father, as you know, as a business broker's assistant. So I was doing a lot of the marketing and kind of BS work and everything. Got exposed to various types of businesses, and then parlayed that into hotel brokering, which was the first time that I really feel like I got to understand the investment analysis piece of it, the taxes and all those kinds of things. And then the market crashed in 2008 and 9 and everything like that. And so I had a couple-year hiatus where I had to work at Thomson Reuters to keep the lights on, but I very quickly knew.
But that's perfect, because how many people who want to get into real estate, who want to invest in it, feel like they're trapped in a job that they can't escape from? I hear that all the time. People are like, I'm trapped in this job. I don't know how to get out. And it's
it's a mindset.
How do you get trapped in a job, man? I don't get it.
I can tell you that I was in the top 10, 20% of all the salespeople at that company while working another 40 hours a week doing real estate. So I can tell you it's a product of effort and output. But
kind of weird story. I'm going to segue quick. So I was playing Monopoly this weekend because I'm still not. I'm like where you were in 1991. Yeah. So I was doing that, and then
we should play then.
Yeah, right. So ended up speaking with a guy who I worked with because I was at that dance studio, which we talked about. We can talk about more.
Yep.
Anyway, big company. There's hundreds of studios worldwide, and I was in top 20 in sales my last year in the company, and no one ever congratulated me or told me. I found out 2 days ago. He was like, "Yeah, I was reading old reports, and you were in top 20 in sales. It's probably close to $600,000." I made $28,000 that year.
Wow,
isn't that crazy?
Way for them.
Trapped. I was trapped.
Yeah, you were.
In my mind, yeah.
Yes, until you made the decision to untrap yourself. So, about not even a year into that job, I helped Goran to get a job at Thomson Reuters as well. And at that point, he and I were just good friends.
Trapping his bitch ass too.
Yeah, exactly. Through the corporate hooks on him as well. But we were back to back in a cube, and so we were just commiserating the entire time. And VSM Real Estate was actually born within the walls of another company, which is kind of ironic.
Does that mean they own part of it?
I asked that one time, and
okay.
they had no interest.
Okay.
So.
That's good.
Thank God.
Yeah, right.
And but it was pretty clear early on that wasn't what I wanted to do. So rather than be a baby about it and act like I was trapped, I decided to make the most of it and do my day job and then start my other business, wait till I reach a certain point of critical momentum, and then jump off. At the time that Goran and I both made the decision to leave our full-time jobs, we had about $4,000 a month in revenue coming in, and we were 50-50 partners, right? So you can do the math. We were on about a $24K clip. So that wasn't clearly going to keep the lights on, but it was enough to at least...
In management or like real estate that you
In
owned?
management.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it was enough, though, for us to feel like, okay, well, the writing is on the wall that if we put all of our effort into this business, that we can make something of it. And so...
What happened in your mind, though? Like, how did you go from, hey, I'm in this job where you did feel trapped to being... building something more for yourself? Because I think most people just don't get started.
Well, first things first, I don't know that I felt trapped. I felt like it was a good company and a good job, but it was just more like I felt like it was boring and stupid. Like, and that, I mean, part of it was like, you have a CEO and an owner, and then there's like 49 layers between me and the person who owned the company, and I didn't even know my boss's boss, and it was just like, you're packed in like cattle in these little cubes they got the whip to you telling you how many calls you got to make and minutes on the phone and all this kind of stuff, and it was just, I didn't like it. But as far as the decision, the mindset that was required, I wanted to be rich. I mean, let's make no mistake about that. That's a motivating factor for me, for sure. I grew up on hip hop and, Bentleys and on 22s and, chains and all this kind of stuff. And I wanted that. Like, I knew that if I was going to have that, I wasn't going to get it as an employee. Mm-hmm. I knew I needed to start my own business. I also wanted to build something that was like a dynasty that could be potentially passed on to children and things like that. And so that's part of the reason to get into real estate. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. You were money motivated. Yeah. So, but even still, like, there's a lot of people we know who are money motivated who all they want is a Bentley. They're hanging out, they're taking photos with Bentleys, and yet for some reason they just don't connect the dots.
What is that expression? Like, a goal without a plan is just a dream?
Yeah, something like that.
So that was kind of the difference between me and them, right? They were just hangers on, wishing that they'd wake up and $1 million would appear in their bank account, whereas I felt like I went out and I made a plan and,
But how do you even know how to start putting a plan together?
There wasn't really a great plan when we went into doing property management, which was my very first business, other than to say that we knew that the market was ripe for it and that there was a lot of demand. We looked at some of the competitors that were out there and what they were charging. We basically just said, hey, let's do the same thing, but let's do it for less. Yep. And let's see if we can get some piece of the market share. And so for the first couple of years, we just out-hustled them. We were the first to call and more responsive, offered more service, and offered it for a lower price. And we built it from 0 to like 300-400 units in a couple of years.
Right.
And,
Well, that's what I see. That's what got me all excited and motivated in my business, is that I just feel like there's a huge market inefficiency that someone was going to eventually find a way to exploit. Mm-hmm. And really, it's just that no one wants to work or do anything in real estate. Oh,
God, it's the worst right now, too.
Yeah, right. But isn't that crazy? Because, like, there's less supply of deals, and then there's more people competing for it, and yet people want to work less. Like, how does that happen?
I don't know. I think people are just a little too rich and too comfortable right now. Everybody who was unemployed 10 years ago is who wants to be employed is currently employed. I mean, the unemployment rate in Minnesota is just super near the bottom. It's like almost you'd have to try not to. And then companies are making money. I mean, even in the construction business, that's where I feel like I've seen it the most. There's a lot of that I'll take it or leave it type of attitude approach to it. And then, gosh, I can only count how many times I've called realtors and left them messages and sent them emails, and they just don't get back to you because I guess they got other more important stuff to do.
Oh, man, those residential agents, too, are like the most prompt, responsive agents compared to what we're working with a lot of times.
I know. I remember I called a CBRE agent who had a $100 million portfolio twice, told him that I had a potential buyer. He just never called me back. I'm like,
he's like, I don't know you, whatever.
I was like, you got better stuff to do, like,
right.
Sell this $100 million portfolio. But I think apathy is a cultural problem, just in general.
But I think that's also a positive, right? Because you look at, people I think a lot of times feel like opportunity isn't out there for them, and I think both of us are evidence that there is so much opportunity out there.
For
sure. You're from 1,000 square foot, East Bloomington house, and you got into this because you wanted to own Bentleys like the rap stars.
Right.
And I'm a college dropout who really had no ambition of making a ton of money, but connected it with another purpose. And yet we both outworked so many of our competitors that we're both doing okay.
I think it's probably a good time for me to turn the tables and interview you here for a moment here. So let's talk about how you already mentioned, college dropout, and I'd like to make sure everyone knows that he's a college dropout. But aside from that,
stay out of school, kids.
Yeah. School's bad, okay? And then, how did you decide to go from doing the ballroom dancing to real estate? Let's talk a little bit about the decision.
So that was sort of a rash decision. Really, the impetus there was my friend Andre, who works with us now at Obsidian Group, was getting married, and I didn't have any time off, and it was one of my best friends, so I quit. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. He wakes up, so I'm waking up, I'm going into the dance studio, and it's like 10 in the morning because I don't work until 1, I work late, and I'm going to the bathroom. Andre and I just crossed each other in the halls. He's like, been dating this girl for 6 years. I've hung out with her 4 times. I'm getting married, and I'm going to Moldova, and it's in 2 months. Can you come? And I was like, I think I'll find a way. And I did. I just went in, and I was like, hey, can I have this time off? No? Okay, I quit. And that's how it went. And I was already at a point where I'm like, I know I need to do something more with my life than what I was doing. I alluded to this. I made $28,000 a year despite selling a lot. Mm-hmm. And wanted something more substantial, wanted something where I could take care of myself and potentially start to build a family. And a lot of people always said real estate. Cindy Coble was super nice and helpful for me. She actually ended up introducing me to you and a few others. Mm-hmm. And I showed up, and you and Goran were there with Dario, and like Goran's got his like foot up on the desk, just like being, and like everything's pristine. You have this cool loft building in Lower Town, and I'm like, these guys are cool. I want to be cool like them, and like immediately got sucked into it. And I remember like the best thing that you ever did for me was, so I interviewed with them. They weren't necessarily hiring, and they go, yeah, we don't think we want you, but if you're willing to do this, and you don't take any of my time, we'll give you a shot. So I was like, okay. Came in, they're like, here's the list of people where you can make calls. Mm-hmm. Here's the CRM. Here's how you use it. Figure out your own script. Let us know when you're making these calls. I'm like, okay. So I showed up at 9 a.m., left at usually 4. Mm-hmm. Not going to lie. Like,
you were wearing a suit too?
Wearing a suit every day.
Every day.
Which I've never done since.
Yeah.
And just called all day long. And just drove everybody crazy because I'm like walking around like pacing like a caged animal. Like if someone's like, yeah, I'm interested. First time home buyers, by the way, too. Like nothing too exciting or crazy. But like when I would get it, I'd just be like, yeah, what's up? And just start flexing on everyone else in the office. Yeah. And they're like, whoa, you need to relax, dude.
Yeah, your loud talking and pacing made a lot of friends.
But regardless, anyway, I actually got some deals put together through that. And then, the one thing that like I'll never forget is a home in West 7th. Ended up bringing Goran, Dario, and you guys did this deal, refinanced it, bought it for like 110, stuck 40 into it, got it reappraised at 280, and I made a $1,500 fee. And I was like, I remember it because and then you go, not only did I make that fee, but you're like, dude, you're gonna have to spend this on your tired ass wardrobe. Like, and you made me go spend. Yeah. Okay. You made me spend all that money on clothes.
That's true.
Because I was looking not the best.
I also made you buy a new car.
You did.
Twice.
I'd still be driving a 1997 Acura if I.
Oh God.
But regardless, for so many reasons, but ended up, working with investors and wanting to do that myself. So that was sort of what I got into, and really the gift of being like, the basic stuff you're going to learn on your own, and ask me when you have the solution to confirm your solution or disconfirm was like the greatest gift that I was ever given, because it taught me how to think for myself. And I just kind of kept applying that. We partnered on a few other ventures. We ended up being in this commercial brokerage together. Mm-hmm. And, you at the same time were taking on 100% ownership of VSM and building these other companies. It just made sense that I would focus on commercial, you'd focus on residential. So we put that together. Obviously, we're still good friends. Yep. And now, so we have a commercial brokerage, and we're buying as much commercial real estate as we can.
Well, I want to touch on one thing you mentioned as far as the gift of making you be independent, right?
Yep.
I had proteges before you, right? And a lot of them I had stuck a lot of time into personally training, only to have them either backstab me or just be lazy or, whatever. And so you kind of came in at a little bit of a perfect storm where I was a little jaded, right? And I didn't like people. I think I was also just going freshly through a divorce as well, so my
double hoodies.
spirits were real high. And so I probably took a little bit of an approach of whatever happens with you, instead of giving you my all. But you did thrive through limited coaching and some tough love, and so.
But you were always there when I needed you.
Yeah.
There was no question.
Yeah.
So let's be clear about that, because that is an important thing. You can't just let people falter and do whatever. But it forced me to think on my own.
Absolutely, and I think that one of the things I remember talking to you about too is don't ask me a question until you've done your own research. Like, have you Googled this? Have you gone to the statutes? This kind of stuff, because that's a waste of my time and yours. And you need to learn how to solve these things, because one of the things that I recognized with you right away was that you weren't going to be my agent or my employee for long, right? That you were going to be,
right.
You were going to become a senior management, you were going to become a partner, and all this kind of stuff. So I knew in order to sort of stay ahead of you, I had to keep ratcheting up the level of challenge and difficulty and having you learn to think the way that I did, right? So one advantage that you had is that you at least had someone to go to, right?
For sure.
And whereas I was just like, I had Goran, right? And Goran was, he wasn't a resource knowledge. He was more for knowledge or whatever. He was more of a encouragement, his thing, what he provided to me was the belief that it can be done. Because he's so audacious, right? Like he thinks like any idea he has is like 100% feasible, just because whatever, right? He's just that audacious, right?
And he does it. He pulls it
more
off
often than not. More often than not, he does.
More than anyone I know.
Right.
Yeah.
So I had more of like a brainy, nerdy, analytical type of mind, and then Goran with his bravado, and together collectively we made a kind of a smart, brave person, and so. But, I learned a lot from him, in terms of, taking risks, and nothing ventured, nothing gained. And he also learned quite a bit from me. It's actually interesting because now that when I talk to him, I can see that he's had to come my way in the same way that I've had to come his. So we were almost like a crutch to each other for some number of years.
Yep.
So.
No, that's great that you had that collaborative relationship, and that, you guys built something pretty substantial, and now, you guys aren't necessarily working directly together anymore, but there's still a lot of stuff I know that you're both looking at and both supporting each other on.
Oh, yeah. I want the best for him. He's the godfather of my only son, and he'll still, if he called me right now and needed something, I'd be there for him. So, but, his name is the very first letter in the company that I am proud to be the owner and running. So
yeah, you almost said CEO, but you stopped yourself on account of Joe, man.
I did. Is it the first yet? I think it's tomorrow or whatever.
Is it? Okay, then CEO.
Or I guess I'm still CEO for another 48 hours or something like that.
Time to make all kinds of bold proclamations.
Yeah, sign a bunch of contracts and obligations and stuff. No, I won't be doing that, obviously. I want him to be successful, so my whole thing is now, once I'm going to be peeling off, is what are all the things that I can do to prop up VSM from the outside? And
that's the part that I like the most is, I went to New York probably 3 weeks ago or something like that, and for the first time kind of left the company alone without me directly overseeing it. And the people here, mostly Kevin Anderson, my partner, like, the amount that he stepped up was just like really inspiring to me and got me all excited. And I'm like, oh, okay, the brokerage side, now I have something substantial that I know that it operates that I can go sell. Because our job, I think, as CEO or owner, whatever, is you're the best salesman for the company. And you're not selling your individual services anymore. You're selling the company as a whole.
Yep.
And that's kind of fun when you feel like you can really focus on what it is that should be your job, which is doing that, versus the micromanagement or focusing on sort of the day-to-day of some of the other operations.
Absolutely. And as you know, I came up a salesman, right? So I like talking and gabbing and doing that whole thing, but it's very nice to just kind of lay it up for someone else, do a little bit of the schmoozing, and then hand off. And
exactly. Well, so this podcast, I want to continue to do this. I think we're probably going to do it once a month, something like that. And going forward, we'll be a little bit more structured, a little bit more detailed. We'll pick a topic. We're going to weigh in, bring our thoughts on it, and hopefully it's something that ends up being really educational for people looking to get into real estate or people who are in real estate looking to scale up, particularly people our age, our experience level. And we really hope it's going to provide a lot of value. But no matter what, it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be a little bit more casual than some of the other stuff we've done.
That sounds fun. I appreciate you coming up with the idea.
You got it, man. All right. Well, thanks for being here, and we'll see you guys next month.